some familiar faces and some people who I have never met before. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm just going to give one more minute for some people to join. And if you're not comfortable, please make sure that you're not going to be disturbed in this time. This is time for you. It's so nice to see you all. Okay, welcome. And happy Friday. This is our final Friday before Christmas, guys. How wild is that? I have no idea where this year has gone. Cool. I see that Chloe is in the room. Chloe is part of my amazing team. So we've had some tech difficulties in the past. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat and she should be able to help. Okay, I just want to make sure that, can everybody hear me? Yeah, wonderful. And can you all see my screen also? Yay. Okay. Well, we're just going to start. We're recording this anyway. I really want to celebrate those who were able to make it live. We had Jean and a few people who have been stuck in planes and won't be able to join us live. And they let us know about half an hour ago. So, we've made some exceptions for those cases, but we're going to be sharing the recording with those of you who registered anyway. Welcome, everybody. The first thing I'd like us to do, really, I have no idea what your days have been like, weeks have been like. I know some of us are winding down ahead of Christmas. Some of us are literally in the midst of things still. And I know Rod signed up. Rod is the chief constable of Gloucestershire Police, and he's literally just taking Christmas off and then is back at work. So I want us to just take a moment to connect and just really let go of all of the crazy thoughts, crazy priorities, all the pressures and responsibilities that you've put on yourself this year, you've put on yourself this week. We spend most of our times in our heads, and really our unconscious mind is what contains our deeper intelligence. It's our unconscious mind that drives over 90% of our daily decisions. And it's the part of the iceberg that you don't see. It's really the biggest driving force in your life. And most people, despite that being true, live in a pretty disconnected way from that part of ourselves, from our unconscious mind. And we live in a society, especially if we're in the West, I know we have people joining us from all over, but we live in a society that doesn't really value that part of our being, doesn't really understand it, particularly in the workplace, particularly in corporate. And we don't really spend enough time, even me who's in this world, who's been in this world for the last 10 years, we don't spend enough time typically getting to know those deeper parts of us and connecting our conscious mind to it. So it's not just about becoming a hippie and, renouncing everything that society has to offer and moving to somewhere a little bit more eclectic, where there's jungles and oceans in the world. It's really about being an integrated being where we're going to bring both aspects of ourselves together, the part of us that can think and send people to the moon and, build architectural bridges, and also the part of us that's really an animal, the deepest part of our soul that really craves to evolve and to feel and to experience the world. So that's my chat, but really, I'm less interested in you listening to the words that I say to you today and more interested in you being an observer and a witness and really tuning into your experience and feeling into what's true for you. And some of us will have different experiences, right? Like there's so many factors that will determine how you're feeling, that will determine whether you have access. There's some days where I will meditate and do a trance, which we're gonna be taking some of you into today. And I literally feel like God. And it's just unbelievable. And I feel like I'm the drop of water, that's the entire ocean. and it feels so good in my body, and I feel completely fearless and invincible. And there are days on end where nothing happens and I go nowhere. So if you have any expectations, put those to the side and let's just take a minute where you get to just slow down your breath and really shaking it off, maybe moving your head from side to side, maybe relaxing your jaw, and just really tune your awareness inwards for just a few moments and notice what it feels like to breathe today, this Friday, before Christmas, before the weekend. How does your body feel right now? And we're not trying to change anything or create something that's not there. We're really just welcoming, observing what is. So much of our lives is spent in our heads. So much of our mind focuses on the past, rehashing situations and events that have happened, or the future, anticipating what could be. All of that isn't actually real. So just see if you can approach your body right now. Maybe there's some areas that feel really pleasurable. Maybe you're catching places that were really tense. And just be curious. What is it like to really welcome those parts? And from this place, I'd love it if you really welcomed your conscious mind back in and tuned into your intention. Intentionality can be quite a powerful tool. That is our thinking mind. It's like, why are you here? Why did you answer the call? Which one of my posts or conversations that we had resonated, that got you curious, got you wanting to experience something more inside? And maybe that's the same as your challenge that you selected. Maybe something completely different spontaneously arose. They're both perfect. Beautiful. Once you have that and you feel it, feel free to come back. If your eyes are closed, you can open them up. Welcome to this space. And you're welcome to use the chat. I'm going to give some spaces for questions and comments on two occasions, in the middle after our immersive experience and then at the end. But if you want to share your intention and your challenge with a group, you are welcome to write that in and use it in whatever way supports you. So I'd like to introduce myself. I'm conscious that I haven't met everybody who has joined. So who am I? And what actually got me to this work? So let me tell you a little bit about me, my story, and how I ended up here. I have spent the first part of my career, the first 7 years of my career, were actually spent doing this work through a corporate vehicle. I used Deloitte, which is a big global multinational consultancy, and worked out of London for a long time, much longer than I thought I would be. And I'm originally from Morocco. I'm actually in Morocco right now after having spent most of this year traveling the world. It's been pretty wild. And when I joined consulting in London, I experienced immediate disillusionment. There wasn't a single partner that inspired me. I just immediately knew in my body that it wasn't my path. I could just feel it. And I remember being put on a multi-million pound transformation program, and nobody on the ground knew why we were doing what we did. And that's when I started to know that I was really, really driven by impact and that purpose mattered to me immensely. And there really wasn't necessarily a deeper reason for why things happened in corporate other than profitability and influential leaders and powers leading the scene. And when I found out that so many people's lives were being disrupted, so many of our lives, like two-thirds of our waking lives, are spent us being in the workplace. And so much of that energy and that time just goes to waste because it doesn't feel good and feel aligned if we're on the employee side of things, or it feels really pressured and up to us if we're in the leadership side of things. I realized that I really wanted to work with leaders, and I'm really, really passionate about this ripple effect. So being able to work with people whose decisions impact many. So there's always this bug of systemic impact. And through my 7 years at Deloitte, because I didn't want to do things the normal way, I ended up really getting funding from some senior leaders at the organization. And it was like I was running my own startup from within a big, big corporate. And through that, I got the coverage. If any of you know consulting, you'll know that the two most important metrics are risk and utilization. So, they basically sell you out. And I didn't have to respect those because of the agreements I had made with some leaders within Deloitte. And so I had a lot of safety and carte blanche, as we would say in French, to do whatever I wanted and work with some pretty influential leaders. Like I supported the mayor of London when I was 23 at the time, and I wasn't even a qualified coach when I was first beginning. At very early days of this work, I worked with the managing director of transport. I was able to support Kumi Naidu when he was Secretary General of Amnesty. And really, at the time, I used the language of human potential, and I co-created an approach to transform organizations in order to unlock human potential. And it was based on psychology and neuroscience and performance science and even philosophy to a degree, but really in a practical way. So I was never about the theoretical and the academia models. It was always about how do we make it real? How does this affect real people today? How do we shift things in reality? And so I got very interested in behavioral economics because at the time that was the only science, and I was very in my head too. It's balanced out a bit over the last few years, but behavioral economics was the only science that really studies the irrationality of human beings. And so that's kind of as woo-woo as I could get at the time in order to delve into the unconscious mind and the deeper parts of ourselves. And so that was where I started. I started really facilitating and holding space for executive teams and helping them be better as a group, be better as an organization, and get more out of their lives and their businesses in glass buildings in London. I've also always been obsessed with consciousness. So consciousness, I mean, it's a word that will mean different things to different people. But to me, when I had no idea what consciousness meant, it was everything that we don't see. So everything underneath the iceberg inside a human being. I was fascinated by human beings. I was fascinated by my own mind and by the different kind of conflicts that I had within myself about ideas that I'd have and then what would lead me to make decisions and what would shift my behavior for real versus what I want. And so in my really early days, even when I was a child, I remember making assumptions, thinking that the way I operated inside was how everybody operated. And when I realized that that wasn't the case, that other people didn't really ask themselves all the questions that I did, or weren't really curious, didn't really care where our decisions came from, weren't necessarily driven by impact in the same way that I was. I realized that there was really um, a huge layer of complexity underneath humans, and that it was really the greatest mystery. And as I've you know, 3 years into doing this work in corporate, I had a bit of waking up moment myself. Because I realized that even though I was amazing at what I did and the results that I was creating for these clients, and everybody was so happy with me, I wasn't actually walking my talk. I wasn't applying these principles to my own life. And, this concept of a shadow or these limiting beliefs or, issues that I may have had with relationships in my life, whether it was like closed ones, loved ones, family, or, just basic things to do with, controlling tendencies or my appearance and what people thought of me and pleasing people, things like that. I was really, really uncomfortable about opening this box. It's like there was a distant awareness that there was something there, but it was really distant. I didn't know those parts of myself well at all. And I realized that if I were to be all of myself, I would really have to reclaim them and get to know them and delve deep. And there was a lot of resistance, there was a lot of fear. And I realized that I had to be the embodiment of this work if I was going to share it with people and do it in the world. And that's when the consciousness side of my journey really took a different turn because I started pursuing it consciously, back to us being a superpower using both. It's not about one or the other. And, in a nutshell, I started volunteering at the Buddhist Center in East London. And I got really reconnected to spirituality. That's when I started learning, about the deeper, less rational parts of ourselves and really gotten interested into the body and an understanding of our own selves. I also found yoga and I started moving and I started aligning my body to my breath, to my mind all at the same time. And that created states that showed me there was so much more available in the world than I had thought within the confines of my mind. And that really enabled me to start feeling again because I think I was completely cut off. I was thinking all the time. I got very, very good at thinking. And then from there, I became a personal development junkie. So I started traveling, going on retreats, training with the best. I mean, literally this year, from Bali to San Diego in California to Hawaii, I've literally tracked down some of the best people in the field, be them doctors, be them shamans, and bringing really all of this ancient human wisdom about our nature and who we are and applying it to leadership and entrepreneurship to support us amplifying our impact in the world and us really creating freedom-based businesses that are going to better society. So that's a little bit about my personal journey here. Um, you'll have figured that out already. I really bring both. I'm not one or the other. And one of the things that I really bring that I found only a handful of people in the field have is this convergence of science and spirituality, this convergence of reason and intuition. Really, we're looking at expanding in the physical world, like your business and your relationships, and really society and internally. So I'm really operating at the edge, and I'm really interested in both together and using what we know about human nature and ourselves to be the container that's going to support us to expand in order to hold and bridge both of these worlds. So I've touched on some of this already, but I've been asked this question a lot. I was coaching CEOs way before I was a CEO. My private business is only 3 years old. I am 29 years old. A lot of people have asked me, how have you been able to support such successful or such influential people as someone who's much younger, who hasn't necessarily been in their direct steps. And so I wanted to share a little bit with you about why I've picked this place and why I'm really interested in supporting these kind of people in the world. And, my clients, when I started, they were mainly just corporate CEOs and executive teams. And as I've deepened and understood myself better, they've expanded. So I still support corporates. I still support high-end chief executives, but I also support 7 and 8 and 9 figure entrepreneurs. I also support starting solopreneurs. I support fast scaling founders, Series A's, B, C. I recently have been taking on a small proportion of people who are coaches and really in the service industry who are looking to have a horizontal impact in the world. So if I'm assuming you're one of those, you fall into one of these categories. But that's my sweet spot in terms of, the people who I do this work for and who I love to serve. The first reason is because of this ripple effect. I really, really, really need impact. It's really fun to make a lot of money, and it's great to create it once we're there. But if money made people happy, we would know at this point it doesn't. A lot of my clients are wealthy and they come to me not because they need support, being better business people, right? Not that that doesn't help and we can always improve, right? But it's really about the impact we can have on the people that we touch and on society, whether they work for us, whether we support them in our line of work, whether it's just in a local way, because we're a daughter, a sister, a father, a spouse, whatever it might be. So that purpose and that impact piece you'll see in all of my work. It's kind of a prerequisite. And leaders and entrepreneurs tend to be ambitious. They tend to have some kind of big dream or big vision, or at least some desire of a certain lifestyle for themselves. So there tends to be a really great match there. The second is I have a pretty strong cognitive mind. Um, I spend so much of my life overthinking, so much. I cannot tell you. I am a neuroses, high neuroses person, really neurotic. I've had to do so much work on myself to be more chilled, but it's not my default. I wasn't wired that way. And I've also had a bunch of things happen to me in my life that's led me to develop my brain in a way that a lot of people don't get access to. Some of those really extraordinary experiences, and really grateful to have had them, some of them quite dark and quite traumatic, that have had done a lot of damage and caused some harm. And I'm really grateful for it today because I've integrated them and they've enabled me a greater range. But they were painful, and they were painful to go through, and they took me many years to be able to face up to. So that's one. And a good example I want to give you, so you might be able to relate, is if any of you have like pets, like I have a cat, or if you have a dog, you'll see that when they go through something stressful, when something happens to them, and we live in a world where stress is kind of like water. Stress is everywhere. It's very hard. We were designed to eat blueberries in a cave. We weren't designed to have iPhones and be on Zoom all the time and live the kind of lifestyles that a lot of us are living. And if you think of that cat, right, when that cat experiences stress, its default way of reacting once the stress is gone is to shake. They'll literally go like that, and they will release that energy. They're really smart, right? It's a really, really smart function of our unconscious mind to let go. And yeah, I'm seeing some of you stretch. Please do that. That's so cool. Move your body as much as you need during this session. My cat is smart enough to know that it doesn't want to keep that energy trapped inside. And so it literally, physiologically, physically shakes it off. Us humans, we have adapted, we've evolved. And so when we're experienced with these situations, we will really shrink and we will tighten, and we will typically send it to our brain, and our brain will create a story that's not real and make up some kind of post justification or rationalization about it. And we will dissociate. And so, some of you will be familiar with the top ways we disconnect as human beings. There's fight or flight, which is quite well known. There's freezing, like immobilization, we can't take action. And there's folding, you retreat, you bolt, you really no longer feel that fire, you numb out. And so you're disconnected in that sense. And so really we've lost that connection to our deeper intelligence that enables us to keep our system functioning in a fluid way. And so there's kinks inside our operating system, often kinks that we're not even aware of. So I just wanted to give you a sense of why the body and connecting to it is a really, really important step, and also how our mind is such a gift and can fuel, unhelpfully sometimes, some of these coping mechanisms that we've developed over the years. Again, I'm not going to go into these too much today because I really want it to make it about you. But I mentioned some of the harder things I went through. One of that experience when I was 16 happened to me and I freeze. I froze. That's the way I responded. And in that freezing, there was in my neural circuitry a pattern that was installed. And the pattern was bad things happen when I'm not in control. So that's what my cat, my internal animal, coded into my system. Think of a software in a computer. And so I became a control freak. I became really, really, really tuned in to make sure that I would never be in a situation again where I didn't have any control. And it was useful in some ways because it meant that I was able to take a lot of action, but really it was exhausting. I had no idea that I was doing it. It became a central part of my identity, such that when I did become aware of it, untying myself from that was really difficult because I had no idea who I was anymore because it was so many years of these same habitual patterns that I was using. And honestly, the last 4 years, I've been on the biggest journey of surrender to the point where I don't know where I live today, right? I spent the last 11 years in London, and this year I've pretty much been a nomad, accidentally became a nomad. And now I'm okay, not knowing where I'm going to be next month, right? And you tell that to the younger version of me, and she'd find that completely unbelievable, right? So our brains are like that really, jelly that you can really open and close. And it's just so amazing how adaptable we are and how much change is possible. And also it takes willingness and courage and openness to go on the journey. So I think you can tell I'm passionate about this work. I don't have to talk about that. So let's move on to these are some testimonials. I wanted to give you a sense that I want to make a distinction here. I want to make a distinction between doing and being, because we live in a society that overvalues doing. It's all about the action. It's all about the to-do list. It's all about the metrics. It's all about the measurable things. It's all about that part of the iceberg that's on top of the ocean that we don't see. And the reason why I've managed to get the levels of testimonials, the one on the left is the first testimonial I ever got, and it's 8 years old. So Tom wrote this about me 8 years ago, and he wrote, Camelia is exceptional. In my 18-year career in consulting, banking, and government, I've only encountered a handful of people as talented as her. And she's certainly the standout top performer that I've worked with since I joined Deloitte 14 months ago, right? He's now been in Deloitte a decade. And Tom was the youngest CIO at DEFRA, which is a large UK government institution. And the reason why that is because I was in touch with my being. It's not just about what you show up to do. And again, like I'm an entrepreneur, I get my hands dirty. I know what it's like. I'm everything but a lazy person. And I go with the saying that, when you pray, move your feet. So I'm not underestimating the role of action. And I have felt the power of you showing up as you actually are, that clear channel without the noise, without the self-centeredness of what should I say right now? What's the other person going to think of me? How do I make sure I get the promotion? How do I make sure I really get to the end of the year? And I'm financially stable and I've kept my sanity and I've got enough time or space, right? And really, my experience of coaching some of the world's best, highest performance and in my own journey is the universe isn't going to give you what you want. It's going to give you who you are. And who you are is a product of your being a lot more than what you do. And so, my invitation for this session is for you to inquire and open up to see where there's space for you to rebalance in favor of one side or the other. It could be either. I'm spotting some people on this call who it might be the opposite for. So, with that, great. You can see, I want you, okay, here's a good test for us. You'll have seen the energy. We spent a minute or two connecting, and now it's been firing up, intellectual mind, lots going on, right? We're gonna I'm gonna actually stop sharing my screen so that you can have an inner experience. And we're gonna dive in. I'm gonna lead us through a process which is going to hopefully support you in solving this challenge that you brought to the table today. And it's really one of the most powerful tools to build the bridge. So to give you a sense of generative trance, it's it's a type of hypnosis, but we're also involving your conscious mind. So I'm not going to be doing anything to you. You're really going to be in an empowered place where you're deciding how deep or not you want to go, and you're going to stay centered and aware the entire time. So you're not going to um, travel and go somewhere else and then come back, right? It's really going to be creating a state that you're going to remember once you know the experience is over. And the main point here is notice your state, because the magic happens when we're in a state that we have access to these two parts of us. And we see the world beginning to catch up in terms of valuing the importance of state. You know, like the fitness industry has gone crazy. People are starting to pay a bit more attention to their nutrition, how they feed their minds, even. But we do very little to fuel the deepest parts of us, right? We typically, you know, everybody wants to go to Peru and go on an ayahuasca retreat, but nobody wants to meditate for an hour every day. No one has time for that, right? Like it takes a lot of intentionality and effort and discipline to do it. So I'd like you to get comfortable. And again, don't have any expectations about what may or may not happen. Think of it as a kind of active meditation. So, on top of just witnessing ourselves and learning about how our minds work, we're also interested in coming back and creating in the world and integrating whatever we found so that it becomes real, right? So that it becomes our lived experience and our lived reality. So with that, let's begin. I've deliberately turned off everybody's videos up until this point so that it could be an internal experience. But if you want to turn it on, you're welcome to. And we're going to explore a triad of energies or ways of being. So get comfortable. And again, if you're not used to this, closing your eyes can be a good way of taking the awareness inside. And anytime something pops up and you want to find a solution for that you don't know how to solve or what to do, really bringing that challenge that you selected that you love to make some progress with, that you'd like a solution to, and you're just not quite sure what the solution is or how you're going to get there. And what we're going to do is not just ask ourselves in our verbal, analytical thinking minds, but experience it within ourselves. These different ways of being, these different archetypes. And we're going to let those archetypes and let your unique issue that you brought, relevant to you and your life, teach you what needs to happen. And bring with you some new possibilities that maybe you want to try. So you don't need to know how right now. You can just be curious and let these different parts of you inside show you the way and guide you home. So let's begin by really gathering your awareness and your attention. If you're wearing glasses like me, you might want to take them off. Just really indicating to our animal that we're dropping in, going down, creating a space for ourselves and our world to do this special work, dropping in, deeply tuning into you, letting go of the busyness and intensity of the outside world. You can let it fly away like a bird in the sky. There's nothing to do in the body except for relaxation. Giving yourself total permission to relax. There's nothing to cling to in the mind. And anywhere you notice any tension, you can release. You can use your breath as your rhythmic counterpart, like the waves in the ocean. Breathing in, breathing out, washing up on shore, allowing yourself to slow down, quieten down. Total permission to indulge and relax, filling yourself up from the inside. Almost like that natural, rejuvenating feeling you get when you spend a day at the spa. A whole day's worth of release. You can make that happen in just a few moments. Isn't that great to know? You can come back to your body and let go. And as you make your way, noticing, moving down your spine, down on your stomach, you can let your stomach relax, expand, nothing to hold in. I know that my cat, Calvi, doesn't ever concern himself with how his tummy looks, or his face, or his profile, how many people liked his posts. I know that he's a lot more interested in what it feels like to be around people that he loves. And as you come back home to yourself, you can call in the feeling. Remember the feeling of being around someone, people, even maybe each other that you really love. The utter delight of your pet greeting you when you come home, waiting for you at the door, wagging its tail. Come home. Now, the part of you patiently waiting for you to come home to your body, bringing your conscious mind home from the fields of consciousness from which it came in the first place. And as you center, you can also begin to enjoy expanding out wider and wider into the spaces around you, that sensing subtle nerve awareness, feeling with your breath the air around you in your city, letting yourself open. And maybe you can sense the energy of the space we're in, this container, this Zoom room, interconnectedness, noticing your connection to people, to each other, noticing how you feel, and attending to what you feel you need a little bit more of now. Bringing in a focused awareness to what you are experiencing right now. Perhaps your imagination, what I'd love to experience more than anything in the world right now is. Let yourself feel that. Anything that you find swirling inside as you play, welcome it. Welcome home. Teach me. If there's any resistance, that's great. You're welcome to. And you can enjoy that experience completely. What does it need? How can you give yourself that right now? And if you feel so connected to everything and everyone here, everywhere, all at once, that's great. Thank you. Teach me how to be more connected, more integrated, and more myself, all at the same time. And with this beautiful state, however that shows up for you or not, you can bring up your selected challenge in your life or in your work that you'd really like an answer to, that you'd like to get creative on how to solve. Because from where you are right now, you're not sure how. A challenge, a question, a possibility. Just allowing that to emerge in your space. Maybe like a symbol or a figure. Noticing where in the space it is. How much distance is the right distance? How does it need to be held? What kind of holding does it like that you want to give it? And when you're ready, like you to call in someone or something or somewhere in your life that's blessed you, your safe space, your favorite human, someone who's had a really positive impact on your life. It could be Gandhi, it could be a parent or a grandparent, it could be your favorite beach, your favorite dress. Something that's made you feel unconditionally loved and deeply inspired to be more of you. They weren't there because you achieved the thing. They were there because they loved you. And that was enough. Once you've got someone or something really feeling into what that person or place or object would have to say about your challenge, if it had a voice, what guidance would it give you? And allowing yourself to feel that in your body, however it arises. And when you're ready, we're going to call in our first energy, playfulness. A beautiful, shining, creative, joyful, completely unself-conscious, creative mind of child. The ease of being a beginner. There's nothing you can do that's wrong. And every possibility in front of you. I wonder what this does. How does it feel in your body? How old are you? What do you allow yourself to do that you don't normally? What's the quality of your attention? And as you draw the archetype of this energy, draw its attention to your question. How does playfulness answer you? How does playfulness play with this figure or symbol in your space? And you don't need to know how. You don't need to know the answer with your thinking mind. You can sing the answer in a completely different language, maybe one you haven't even heard before. Maybe your neighbors. You can kick it like a ball through a net, fly it like a plane in the air. Watch it like a baby learning to walk for the first time. Wow, that's how to do that. Oh my goodness, I had no idea. The first time you met each other. And once you've explored playfulness, you can invite in second energy to make space for equally important archetype. Fierceness, like a steel rod, moving up and down your spine. Cold blade of a warrior. Hot eyes of a lion. Nothing is going to stop you from achieving your goal. The place of being unfuckwithable. They don't even try. Where's fierceness in your body? Bringing it all together to move forward, strengthen, power, clarity, protection, creation. The pure energy underneath anger, the generative way that brings life from death. How does fierceness answer your question? That resilience that you don't even need to try to have. It's just there. The warrior. You can let that swirl with your figure and your being. Let it play with playfulness for a moment. Each one, another lesson today. And when you're ready, can let that lion go, knowing it's there for you whenever you need to call on it. Getting yourself ready to bring in the third primal archetypal energy. It's always, always important. Tenderness, sweetness, and love. The way your puppy waiting at the door, wagging its tail, loves you. Tenderness and love all the way through your body. What does it feel like as you touch the inside of yourself, as you breathe with sound? What does tenderness, what does love have to say about your challenge, your question? The heart mind, intelligent, empathy, kindness, and compassion for yourself first. For yourself first. And that tenderness and sweetness, you can bring it to the lion and the warrior. Bring it to the playful child. And what is a playful warrior like today? And a tender one? And how do the three swirl together, making uniquely brilliant pattern into which you drop your question? Phew. Patterns and qualities, colors and ideas, like you're mixing a soup that you've made yourself. How do playfulness, fierceness, and tenderness answer? Which one do you need a little bit more of? Calling it forth, waking it up. Which one are you really good at? You can let that one lead and teach the others. Making space, forging the trail, so it's easier for the others to come forward. How do I come into the world even more? How do I create my life with more impact and beauty? How do I replace pressure with delight? How do I create boundaries that support me and everyone I come in contact with? All great questions. And you have some of your own too. You can let them all sit in a bath and soak up all of the tenderness and playfulness and fierceness and see what comes. And whatever interesting learnings or experiences you have, you can bring them with you. Perhaps a commitment you'd like to make yourself. Noticing something that feels really good. I'm going to have more of that in my life. A decision, a choice. And bringing your attention back into the body and the breath and your heartbeat, holding on to whatever answers you'd like to keep as you travel up and back up to the surface, taking your time, slowly reopening your eyes. Slowly making your way back. So, welcome back, everybody. I'm not sure what's happening, and I do love Chloe, but I've got 7 Chloes on the call. So if your video is off, I'm going to invite you to turn it back on if you like. And what we're going to do now is, as you slowly, make your way back from wherever you went, I want to give an opportunity to 1 or 2 people to ask a question and get some live coaching right now, and maybe continue the work that you started inside. And this is going to be helpful for everybody, in the sense that there's so much resonance. So someone else's problem might feel similar to yours, and you might learn that way. But even if you don't, being able to take the connection outside and seeing how you can bring that out rather than just inside your body as something that you felt is going to be important. So, who would like to get in the hot seat? And the only person I can see, by the way, whose face I can see is Kathleen. I could see Giovanna earlier. So you're going to have to either unmute or, yeah, raise in the chat. Yeah, Kathleen, you can definitely go. You can unmute yourself. Let me pin you. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Really good after that.
Yeah? How was that for you?
Too fast. I mean, I was just going deep at the end.
So context for everybody watching and, people at home with the recording, Kathleen is an advanced trance practitioner. And she, we're part of the same cohorts, and we've done the same training initially also. So some of you might be thinking that was way too slow. I thought it was never going to end, and to her it was too fast, right? So that's so cool. I'm so glad to hear you say that. And yeah, I feel the in-between space. So how can I support you today?
Um, Well, my question is, so the thing that I wanted um, guidance on is really, it was really in inspiration and ideas and clarity on how to, well, the question was actionable, inspired, and aligned future vision.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a life coach and I have sort of reached the top of what I thought I was aiming for, say maybe 10 years ago or 5 years ago, and I feel a little flatlined. And so and I don't take a lot of new action.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe it's because I don't have, maybe I need a different vision,
Mm-hmm.
which I can't see. But when we did the meditation, so I'm sorry, it's a long-winded answer to your question. Um, I sort of got that actually what I'm doing is enough. It's the right kind of thing that I'm doing. I just need to do more of it. So bring more playfulness in, bring more fierceness in, and more tenderness. And then the lifestyle that I have will be enough. And so it looked like more clients and it looked like more fun and it looked like taking more playful risks. And like I would not have put my hand up if you didn't say fierceness because I would have thought somebody else should have this opportunity because I get to see Camellia sometimes and I just thought, no, fuck it. I'm here on the call. Let's be fierce, right? So get what you want, go for what you, but that's not me normally. I sit to the back and I go, let someone else.
How,
Um,
how does it feel to have done that?
well, I felt a bit bad about taking the hot seat initially, and then I felt a bit nervous, and then I felt excited, like, oh, maybe I will. This is what I need. This is what I need.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
I
Yeah.
like I like Fierce Kathleen. You said something really interesting at the beginning around how part of the reason why you're not getting to that next level that you want in your career is because you got there 10 years ago. So it's almost like there's this it's almost like you got to the top of Everest, right? You got to the top of the mountain. And I wonder what's what's the next step for you? Where are you going next? What do you most want?
Okay. So the vision that I had 10 years ago, I got, say, last year. So I haven't had it for 10 years, but I got it last year. And since then it's been flat. So so this is a thing I do. I go, I don't know. So the first answer is I don't know. That's old. Um, I do know. I do know. I want to have higher paying clients. I want to have, I love coaching. I love coaching. Um, I do want to travel. But I don't earn enough money. So I want to make more money, have even better clients. And I really want to see the world. I want to be in nature. I have a really strong calling to be in nature. And maybe there's something about being in nature with clients. But I know I want to spend more. So that's all I've got. And I don't have any more clarity than that. It's not very clear.
I mean that sounds pretty clear to me. I mean that
Oh,
you're describing what I created this year in my life.
exactly. Which you told me you were going to do last year. And I thought, okay, really? And then you did it.
Exactly. So let's talk about the quality of clients that you have. What do they do? What do they feel like? Do you have a sense? So I've learned in the last year, we're relaunching for my mastermind at the moment, and actually I'm going to speak about that later here. But when we were starting, to re-recruit for this second cohort, I realized I started to feel nervous because I had lots of my, ex really senior executive policing clients, corporate clients who were like, okay, we want something. And I was like, I should create an offer for them. But then I also had some really small business owners, really small business owners, and then some people who were in jobs that they knew they had outgrown, right? Like in leadership positions or whatnot, that were in the very early stages of thinking of what would they do if they were to leave and do something that felt more aligned with them. And initially, my nervousness was how can I create a group that brings all these people together? Like it won't make sense because they're not on the same quote unquote level. And I was thinking about that in the paradigm of business expansion, right? You need to be at the same level of business in order for these people to get value from being in the same group together, right? And it turned out that as I dug deeper and peeled the layers, I realized that that wasn't true at all. It had nothing to do with the industry they worked in, their position at said industry, right? But there was a very, very, very clear criteria that meant this person I want to work with and this person I'm just simply not working with. Even if they want to hire me, I've said no, right? Even though we weren't completely maxed out, they didn't make the cut for the last group. And it's like, what are those traits? And I realized I discriminate not by the external pigeonholes that you see on the surface, but by psychographics. What kind of mindset do they have? So if they're in a victim kind of place, it's a no, right? I'm not interested in supporting people at this level who aren't wanting to take full power in their lives. For example, there was like an openness, exactly how you said, I don't know. That's the first, those are my favorite three words that clients ever say is when they don't know, because that really starts to bring that bridge between conscious and unconscious. And so I became really, really, really clear about the essence of the people that I wanted to work with, irrespective of their circumstances. And then that was my guiding light as I started to bring that group together. And I was being open about it. With every person I explained that to, and the diversity that resulted was mind blowing, and it was amazing because there was that energetic alignment. So when I say what do they feel like, the clients don't need to, you don't need to say middle-aged women who have just gotten menopause, right? Like it doesn't need to be a a targeted marketing yucky, pigeonhole. What does your heart mean when you're talking about the highest level of service in nature with these people? Who shows up for you?
Well, I've never connected it with nature before. But my ideal client is you're talking about that they're I'll tell you what I think you're saying. I love to work with people who've already done a lot of work, who are ready to connect with their higher calling and are very open-minded and creative and fun and courageous. They need to be open-minded to work with me because I work slightly alternatively, like you do. And does that answer the question?
What do you think?
I'm not sure about the working in nature part. Yeah, well, yeah, they and all of my favorite clients are interested in a holistic experience. My favorite clients, they're holistic, so they are healthy. They're interested in health. Um, they look for balance
Right.
in who they are. Yeah.
Okay. How have you been finding or looking for those people in your business? What have you been doing to communicate that out into the world and call people in? What happened there?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I didn't
Nothing.
do anything. I'm still in business, but I don't do any of that. I use an intermediary site called Bark, and it's quite painful and dissatisfying. And but I have a very high retention rate for my clients. So but it's almost impossible to meet new people for me. Like
I'm not,
nobody knows I exist.
I'm not surprised if you do nothing for it. Okay.
I really don't know.
And all these intermediary agencies and stuff, like it's like, when I was in corporate, the system's designed to exploit human potential, not to unlock. So a lot of the words that you were using to describe your ideal client really showed the expansiveness that you were looking for, like the richness, the depth, the connection, the creativity, the courage to actually transcend various paradigms and circumstances that they're in. So I'm not surprised that that's swimming against the tide process. What's been stopping you from being more visible and doing something rather than nothing, if that's something you deeply want and the challenge you chose to bring today?
Well, the thing that comes up instantly is I don't have enough money to get a new website or to hire someone to take pictures of me. And that's a load of crap because I do have enough money to go traveling 4 times a year. Um, so I can find this. So it isn't that, obviously, it can't be.
You don't need a website either. My website's still not live. We have a developer working on it. I made more money this year than I thought was humanly possible. We sold out on a number of offers that we've had, and it's been predominantly word of mouth and referral. We just took the business online in March, and that's been really, really early days, right? And starting to get traction from that. But my website is still not live. Seriously, I don't have a website.
What was the question? What's stopping me? Um, well, after money comes confusion. I don't know how to put myself forward or it must be something about being visible, uh, being criticized. I can't do it. It won't be good enough,
Okay, great.
I think.
Well,
And it
again,
won't work anyway.
you talked
If I do manage to do it, it won't work.
you talked about your retention rate being really good. So obviously people are re-signing you. So you're adding value. I would like you to, I'm gonna give you some soul work. I'd like you to firstly create a folder on your computer, in your wherever, and put down all of the testimonials that you've ever received of the impact that you've had, right? As a place to go back to when the critic comes back and it's like, no, not going to be good enough. What are people going to think? Can't put myself out there. Just a little, objective reminder for you to be able to connect with whenever doubt creeps in. And the practice is whenever you catch yourself doubting, right? Refer back to the actual impact you've created. I mean, that's the fuel, right? Like as a coach is seeing the impact that people have on other people and on their lives and on the organizations that they lead. So really create a direct channel to that and make it a ritual. I'd also invite you to make a list of your top 100 clients that meet these criteria that you described earlier, who you're like, yes, I would love to partner with them. And I want you to invite 5 of those 100 into a deep, powerful, private coaching session. and just show your nervous system that it's possible for you to create high quality clients by being you, right? Just show yourself the steps, right? Just you don't have to do anything other than coach. And the approach I've just, it's like literally the tiniest little step, right? Something you're already doing. You're just inviting new people in. You can waive your fee, right? And then learn to make powerful proposals where there's alignment after the first session. But right now, get 5 of them in front of you and see if you can take the smallest numbers of steps to replace the agency that you're using and start to show yourself that actually you can depend on you to make that happen. And it is up to you.
So I write a list of the top 100 traits that I like in a client, and then no,
List of people
that I've already coached.
that you've already coached, or ideally that you'd love to coach.
Oh, that I'd love to coach, that I know, people that I know that I'd love to coach.
You don't necessarily need to know them.
Oh, okay. 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 Okay.
How
Great.
does that feel, Kathleen?
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Manageable. It feels quite grounding, like clear steps that are doable, that feel, I can feel it in my stomach. It feels like more secure.
Okay, great,
Uh, Thank you.
great. You're welcome. I'm so glad you raised your hand and that was out of character for you. I celebrate your fierceness.
Thank you.
Okay, so I am going to open up the floor for any questions or comments about either of the experiences from anybody else, either the trance or the mini coaching demo. If you'd like to share anything, please unmute yourself now. And if not, I can go on to my invitation to you all today. I promised you something different for those who did join us live to do with the mastermind. So does anybody want to say anything? No. Okay. In which case, let's move on. So today is a really special day for me because we're officially reopening doors to the next cohort of Conscious. And Conscious has been this baby. It's quite new, right? Like I have a private practice, I have a corporate practice, and I work with executive teams. But Conscious has been the newest offer that we created, and I came up with it this time last year in this very house because I was really animated by a desire to bring different groups of people together. When I work with executive teams, they typically have been together for 2 to 30 years. So they know each other well, right? And in my own journey in supporting my life and my business evolve, I really realized I couldn't have gotten to where I got to today if I wasn't so held or supported by like-minded people in small, intimate containers who weren't necessarily directly working with me or for me or any of that, but who were on a similar journey. And having that space held where, you get to really come together in a different kind of way, in a really deeply intimate way that you don't really get in your social circle or if you work in an office. And when I came up with Conscious, we had like this huge vision for it, and it's been more successful than I could have realized. So, it's really intimate for me. Everything I do is deep. So, if you've been in one of my containers or not, you'll know that anything that's scalable I don't do live. Anything I do live, it needs to be small, because I really, really love getting to know the humans, getting to know the connection. Everything we do is really deeply bespoke. And we are reopening doors to the next cohort today. And we already have, I have 8 to 12 spots for it, depending on, I cap seats at 12 maximum. And again, depending on who joins and how their personalities are, their unique professional situations are, we sometimes cap it at less. So TBC, there's going to be between 8 and 12 seats in total, and we've already sold 5. So there's 5 people who've joined. I made some direct invitations to people before today that I knew I wanted to join us and would be a really good fit based on what we had planned. So there's a few seats left, and I wanted to share with you guys, basically invite you in, and accessing these states that, like in the trance that I've just facilitated, accessing them once is not the same as knowing how to live from them. And Kathleen's given us a beautiful example here with, the fierceness archetype, doing something that normally isn't the way she'd interface in the world with other people in a group. It's like, oh, I'll watch what somebody else's session will be. Maybe some of you felt like that today, right? But today, because we tapped into that state, she's also used to it, right? She's used to trance. She was able to draw from that and act. And that action created a result in the world, and she got the hot seat, right? So being able to notice aspects of ourselves is very different to experiencing them in our body and having that be what drives our behavior and helps us break through any kind of limits or glass ceiling that we have in our heads. And this conscious versus unconscious journey, it's a really deep journey that requires consistent practice. So if you take anything away from today, I would love you. You're all going to get the replay from the trance that we did. I would love you to start to cultivate 20 minutes every day. 20 minutes every day where you sit. It can be guided. It can be a replay of this. I can send you some other tracks. It can be not guided. You can guide yourself. It can be you putting on your favorite music, right, and dancing to it. But really spending time to get to know you on a deeper, more intimate level is going to make a bigger difference than you realize. In terms of what conscious is, it's a 6-month journey, very, very intimate. I curate, as I was explaining to Kathleen, everyone is vetted by me, and the energy that the person brings is huge. The criteria is those whose decisions impact many. Whether that's in potential or in actuality, I don't mind because that's just a physical world constraint, right? But it's someone who really is interested in contributing greatly in society and who really wants to either build a freedom-based business or expand the existing activity that they have to the next level in a way that has an impact. It's also for people who are curious and wanting to do this inner work in a way that's not lonely or unguided. So people who really want to get to know how their mind works, people who really want to meet the different parts of their unconscious mind. And I don't believe in I really believe that we can have it all, just not at the same time. So we're really expanding your business at the same time as we're expanding your richness of experience and your life. And for people who are already leading, teams and who don't have enough time or space and are struggling with creativity and energy and motivation and elements like that, we're really going to support you in taking your business to the next level. So we're not losing what you've built, but we're really prioritizing the ease and the flow. We're really prioritizing how good and how pleasurable it feels to be living your life and leading your organization. So that's kind of the outline. In terms of the transformation, we're creating two. We're creating the physical external expansion. So you'll see your business soar, and there's genuine strategy in the mastermind that we're going to be bringing in to support you in being where you want to be next year in reality, not in theory. But we're also going to be focusing on the internal, because the strategy without the embodiment and the energetics is completely pointless. And really cultivating that state inside where you're not in perpetual conflict, right? Where you feel lighter, where you really find that place of peace, even when it's chaos outside and you really don't know how you're going to solve some circumstantial situations that are happening because you're in transition or because you need to solve things that are outside of your control and you can't really plan for those. And really also support you in getting alignment and meaning, that existential quest, like walking your soul home is part of this mastermind. There's a business element and there's a spiritual element. And you're going to truly meet yourself and be able to create and make decisions in your life from there. It's for those who are interested in the whole iceberg, and also for those who want deeper and more intimate relationships. So whether that's with your spouse, whether that's with your teams, whether that's a mixture of the two, whether you have children, we can't live on our own, right? Like it's very difficult to extract ourselves completely, and learning to deepen the intimacy and improve our communication, improve our understanding of some pretty tough dynamics of the people who are closest to you is a really, really important part of this journey. So we're going to be looking at that explicitly also. And how does it work? So how it works is the core of it is we meet twice a month for 2 hours on Zoom. I hold the space and we journey together for 6 months. This is more lifetime with me than my private clients get, by the way. And you're also going to get access to some optional guest expert sessions from the best in the world on topics relevant to your life, on health, on work, whether it's, regenerative agriculture and the future of food, whether it's tantra and sexuality, whether it's, how to be a multi-passionate entrepreneur who travels the world, right? Like all these different things that are relevant to the individuals in the group. I'll be bringing those people in so that you're not just learning from me, but you're learning from a community. And you'll also get access to a portal with past guest expert sessions that we've met. And you'll also get access to my generative trance and energetics course to support you in creating some of these states and doing some of that deep work with your unconscious mind. We're also going to have a Slack channel where there's direct support from me during the week. And you get to meet your tribe of like-minded people and form deep connections for life. So from our last cohort, we've got 2 people joining again, and the last cohort is still meeting. So this starts as a 6-month journey that just completely goes on in perpetuity. And you get your people who support you on this slightly less conventional path. In terms of, giving you a sense of the people who've joined, I'm not gonna say their names for confidentiality, but my client R, he had a huge issue with control, both in his marriage and in his businesses. He was a Swedish entrepreneur. And as a result of joining the container, he learned to surrender in a way that gave him more peace of mind, but also led his companies to expand and really, really got his relationships to a place that he didn't think was possible before, and a level of vulnerability and exchange and intimacy and connection and presence that he had completely lost access to. I have another client, E. She was a woman. She was in the service industry. She really didn't think it was possible for her to create higher paying clients in a way that felt aligned, and was going to use her creativity. And within 3 months, she had a booming practice, and she was selling herself in a way that felt really good and aligned. And she just didn't believe it was possible before she had joined. Another person from the last cohort, Klein J, he launched a solar company. He's socially so much more adept than he was. He was like, an engineer by background, but he struggled with the emotional intelligence and And the gap, because he was so gifted inside and so able to understand himself, but when it came to the execution or the relating elements with other people, there was a gap there. And he deepened his relationship to the outside world. He no longer felt that gap and the conflict internally between those different parts of him. And there was really a deep level of peace, of resilience, and of detachment that happened whilst him opening his heart. The bonus that I'm giving you guys for joining live today is normally this is a £10,000 investment for the 6 months. And I've decided that the next 3 people who join, because there's only 3 to 5 seats anyway, right? Like, so for the next cohort, the next 3 people who join will get 2 additional bonuses worth £9,000. So if you decide to join us, you will get 40% off. So you will pay 6,000 instead of 10,000, and you will, we have 2 payment plans also, so you don't have to pay those in one go. And you will also get 2 deep private coaching sessions with me. So we will get together on a Zoom for 90 minutes. If we're in the same city, we can get together in person, depending on where I am and where you are. And that's worth £3,000. So you'd get those as well, because it's really important. Just FYI, everybody who has joined has bought those sessions on top or is having them on top as part of some package, because it's really important that I'm close to everybody there. This isn't a distant mastermind. There's really high level proximity. And people have said that the sessions with me alone are worth the investment given the results that they've been able to create in their lives. So the offer is, today only. You will have to, if you want to take the next step, you have to fill in the application today, which I'm going to put in the chat for you. It's just a few questions to make sure that you're a good fit. And if you're a good fit, I will invite you to a call directly with me, free of charge. You're going to get free advice. And if you're not a good fit, I'll speak to you and I'll redirect you and I'll give you the right resources. So, you don't have to pay me. People pay a lot of money to get my guidance. And if you're a good fit, then I'll make you an invitation to join, and we can onboard you into the next cohort. We kick off mid-January. So that's when we would be starting the 6-month journey. So I hope that that's clear. This is really for people who want to live a life and create impact that don't make sense in reality, and for the leader that doesn't want to live in regret of having never stepped into their full potential. So your time to expand is now, before the Christmas holidays. If you have any questions, I know we're 2 minutes over. I'm so grateful that you guys showed up today, and I'm so grateful for your time. I will stick around for 10 or so more minutes if anybody wants to ask any questions. And I hope to see some of you on the other side. I wish all of you a really good weekend. Thank you so much.